Why is the catastrophic divorce rate rising right now? If we don't take urgent action, I guarantee that in the next few years, this will become a 100% statistic. In other words, everyone who gets married will end up divorced.
Russia has entered the top countries in terms of the number of divorces. 73% of marriages end with such an unfortunate outcome. In terms of divorce rates worldwide, friends, we are in third place.
If you look at the graph of the number of marriages and divorces over the past few years, you'll see that the percentage of divorces has remained about the same as always. But the number of marriages is catastrophically decreasing. That's why I say that if nothing is done urgently, the number of divorces and marriages will be 1-to-1, meaning a 100% statistic. If you get married, it means you will 100% get divorced. What do you think? Could such incredibly high efficiency just happen by itself? It's like going to a casino and winning almost 100% of the time, every single time. Could that just happen by chance? Or has someone worked very hard on this? Someone is very professionally destroying the institution of the family. And this is a very serious and powerful machine, given such impressive efficiency. How is this even possible? Everyone supposedly learns how to build relationships, but already in 80% of cases it ends in divorce, in disaster. It's like you went to learn how to build, motorcycles, yachts, cars, but 8 out of 10 motorcycles you build fall apart. Even though you followed all the instructions, perhaps you were given the entirely wrong instructions. I truly want you to take away two very main and crucial ideas from this particular video. Why is the divorce rate so incredibly and alarmingly high? First, who precisely and truly benefits from this, and why is it being done in this manner? It's pointless to fight this machine. If I start telling the truth, I'll either be imprisoned or eliminated. That's what they've always done to people who spoke the truth. The only thing I can share in this video is how the institution of the family is being destroyed. Through whom is it easier to destroy a marriage? Have you ever wondered why, in 90% of cases, breakups are initiated by women? Where do girls spend most of their time these days? Instagram and YouTube. Now, girls are learning how to build relationships from Instagram and YouTube. They ask their parents, who have actually spent their whole lives together. And they know for sure from experience, not just in theory like on Instagram and YouTube, what needs to be done in a relationship to make a marriage long-lasting, happy, and enduring. And what shouldn't be done. Otherwise, it will lead to arguments, and possibly even to a breakup as a result. That's why there's still a chance to reach people who still have at least some independent thinking and logic left, who haven't been completely brainwashed by this machine. More and more men are being bound by the ties of marriage. I'm not even going to mention that they called it marriage. How can you call the union of two happy people a marriage? Which also means defect in Russian. I get the feeling they're just laughing at us now. That's how much they're mocking us. Men are increasingly realizing that this is a risky and disastrous business. When, during a breakup or divorce, they take absolutely everything from you. Half your property, your money, and your children.
As of last week, the main thing is that now I have a divorce stamp in my passport. And that's the only detail you need to know about my personal life. There will never be any other details under any circumstances. But there is one interesting thing I learned along the way through all these legal proceedings. I learned a lot about how courts are organized, how lawyers actually work, and all sorts of legal crap and nonsense that exists there. And all that stuff. In general, I enriched my experience with a lot of new knowledge. One of the things I learned is that in civil court, you shouldn't address the judge as your honor, but rather as respected court. You won't hear crap like that in any television show. And when you argue in court for the first time, naturally you start saying it wrong and get corrected. And from there, everything just goes downhill if you have bad lawyers and attorneys who haven't taught you how to behave in court. Another interesting thing I learned is that you don't actually have to go to court yourself. It's better to leave that to the professionals who will handle it for you. So an important thing I learned throughout all of this is that there is a prenuptial agreement system in Russia, and I believed in it and was sure that it worked. But it turned out that it's all complete bullshit. And this will be very interesting news for those people who signed the prenuptial agreement while married. A prenuptial agreement can be overturned in no time at all, because in our country recently it's become nothing more than a worthless piece of paper. If 10 years ago, when people signed prenuptial agreements, everything was clear-cut, what was written was what stood since then, there have been many different legislative innovations in the country. Since then, people here have started going bankrupt, and now it's possible to challenge a prenuptial agreement.
A prenuptial agreement, like any other contract, you can always terminate it yourself. But if you can't, you can go to court and they will help you dissolve it. The same now applies to prenuptial agreements because they may contain terms that the court can deem unsatisfactory for the other party. And everything you wrote and came up with, there you sat there like the owner of factories, newspapers, and steamships, not a care in the world, hoarding your gold and growing your fortune. And then your spouse comes to you and says, now give me half, because the prenuptial agreement is bullshit. And it doesn't matter what was written there, that everything is separate, because this agreement just puts me in a terrible position. I don't agree with this, and it doesn't matter that 1 trillion years have passed, and it doesn't matter that all the statutes of limitations have expired. It's just that you have everything and I have nothing, so kindly give me half. And our state is so social that it doesn't think at all about what kind of circumstances people might have, how much, how, or with what effort one has to earn money. It's just that if you get married, then biomechanically half goes to the other spouse, which is, of course, completely unfair and doesn't correspond to any standards of profitability or any understanding of how the economy works. At the very least, because in order to give away half of your income, for example, first you have to pay taxes, your own taxes, by the way, while no taxes are paid from the other half. So the unfairness starts right from the very first step. That's why the best advice I can give is to never ever get married at all.
A significant new amendment has been officially issued by a recent resolution of the Plenum of the Supreme Court. So now, any property acquired during the marriage, even if it's registered to relatives of either party, like the husband or wife, for example, if during your marriage, your husband's mother suddenly ends up with an apartment. Accordingly, in the event of a divorce, this will be considered jointly acquired property. The question is, how do you prove it? That's why now almost all transactions are being digitized. Everything is moving to digital rubles. And it's becoming easier and easier to trace where the money came from, how your mother, father, or another relative ended up with those funds. Yes, it involves the courts. Yes, it takes time, but it is provable. And believe me, it will be very easy indeed to do. That's precisely why now it's become even much harder to get married, because at this particular point in time, I truly think the entire institution of marriage has completely and utterly collapsed.
Thanks to such laws, marriage has attracted a huge number of materialistic women. Easy money, women who want to get married as quickly as possible, and they don't care at all that you were married before, or that you were in other relationships. How often do we see women taking men away from other relationships? Do you think that's just a coincidence? They want to marry a rich man as quickly as possible, so they can then divorce him just as quickly, sue for half his property, and get child support. Wives have gotten to the point where they deliberately set up mistresses for their husbands.
There is a constant hunt among women for a rich man, how to get his money. How do they do it? Here's an example. She seduces you completely, then marries you, and subsequently hires a mistress and sets her up with you, quite deliberately. If one can't seduce you, she hires another. And this goes on, until one of them manages to seduce you. She makes an arrangement with her so that the mistress will send your wife all your messages, maybe even some video reports. For what purpose? So that there will be evidence in court later. But your wife will tell you that she hacked your phone, that's why she has all those messages. As a result, she divorces you and wins half of your property in court. You'll also have to pay compensation to the mistress because, you see, the mistress also suffered because of your inexperience and lack of professionalism since your wife exposed them. Plus, your wife pays the mistress for helping her out. And in the end, you end up looking like a complete jerk to both your wife and your mistress, not realizing that you've been set up. The smarter girls even have 1 or 2 kids with you. Why? So that you have to pay child support for life and she doesn't have to work. Cool, right?
What do you think? Does this kind of female behavior motivate a man in business? Or does it actually demotivate him? When women deliberately start fights, scandals, and conflicts to speed up a divorce, a man subconsciously begins to realize, what's the point of going out and making money if everything is heading toward a breakup and divorce? In the end, they'll take almost everything from me and leave me with nothing but my underwear. The woman will deliberately push the man into conflict so that he shouts, "That's it! I can't live with you like this anymore, we need to get a divorce." And the woman, on the contrary, will come out looking innocent and blameless. It's him who's the jerk. He's the one who wanted the divorce, and I have nothing to do with it. But the fact that she was constantly starting conflicts and driving him crazy doesn't count.
Did you know sneakiest and most disgusting way to get married is?
Divorce. At the moment when she realizes that it's over, the love is gone, the feelings have faded, she no longer wants to be with her husband, he irritates her, she does the following things. Instead of having an honest and open conversation, explaining the whole situation, talking about her feelings, she starts making the man's life simply unbearable. That is, it's constant nitpicking over every little thing. She provokes him into various arguments and scandals. She deliberately creates reasons for jealousy. And all of this is done so as not to appear guilty for their breakup, not to seem like the bad one in the eyes of others, in the eyes of his parents, her own parents, and possibly in the eyes of your children. And with this kind of behavior, she makes you out to be a jealous person, a tyrant, an abuser, and ultimately forces you to be the first to file for divorce so that you end up being the one to blame. As a result, after the divorce, everyone ends up taking her side. She appears so poor and miserable, while the man is left with a broken heart, shattered nerves, and a deep sense of bitterness and regret that he couldn't keep the family together. And in the end, she gets exactly what she wanted and leaves the family looking pure and innocent. How can a wife buy an apartment during marriage so it won't be divided in a divorce? So you and your husband have saved enough cash to buy an apartment. You say to your husband, let's put the apartment in my name, since it will still be bought during marriage and considered joint property in case of divorce. He says, okay, you take exactly the amount needed for the apartment and go to the bank together with your mother. You open an account in your mother's name and deposit the money there. Then, together with your mother, you go to a notary and draw up a deed of gift for exactly the same amount of money. Then mom goes to the bank, withdraws money and gives it to you. Then you take this money, put it where you got it from, and together with your husband go buy an apartment, register it in your name. Voila! In the event of a divorce, when the apartment is being divided, just show the documents proving that it was purchased with money gifted by your mother. That's it, the apartment remains yours.
It's pointless for men to fight this system. The laws have already been passed. Only women can defeat it. But it's not in women's interest to do so. What woman in her right mind would refuse 50% of a man's property? What woman would ever refuse alimony? That's why we need to address the root problem. We need to come up with laws where it's not beneficial for either the woman or the man to get divorced.
If a woman truly desires to get divorced, she should be immediately sent to prison, because I have already paid her parents a substantial dowry. I brought her here specifically so she could bear me children, and so that they could diligently take care of my valuable cows.
For example, the young children should ideally stay with whoever they truly want, or with the parent who genuinely earns more. That makes sense. It means that a person can adequately take care of them. Even just with this one crucial point, when the children stay with the parent who earns more, because they can truly provide for them, women already lose a huge temptation to get divorced quickly because it's not financially beneficial. There remains a second problem to solve. That is how to divide half of the property acquired during the marriage. And here, dear viewers, I'm going to need your help. So please write in the comments how this issue of dividing jointly acquired property during marriage can be resolved. How can we make it so that neither the woman nor the man wants to get divorced because of this? To help you think about this question, I can suggest one idea. What if half of the jointly acquired property during the marriage went not to the wife or the husband, but, for example, to the children? Marriage, better to call it a union, should be entered into between a man and a woman, not between a man, a woman, and the state. To make such an agreement where it's not beneficial for either the man or the woman to get divorced, instead of how it is now, where all the concessions are for women. For her, it's very advantageous to get divorced as quickly as possible. So what kind of union is that then? How do ex-husbands get out of paying alimony? Some people avoid alimony, devising elaborate schemes. The scheme exploits the fact that the court assigns alimony, the Federal Bailiff Service collects it, and the Ministry of Internal Affairs searches for debtors. These are all different agencies. So, first, the debtor goes to the bank and closes all their accounts. Then, they go to the passport office and change their name. After, they apply to replace their lost passport. With the new passport, they change phone number, registration, and open new bank accounts. The taxpayer identification number INN remains the same, but all the debtor's personal information has changed, meaning nothing can be collected under the old writ of execution. To link identities, the ex-wife must go through the entire process again, with no guarantee it will work. Of course, it's better not to get divorced at all, but if you're already divorced, then I see two ways to solve the problem with alimony. The first option, as I've already mentioned, is that the children stay with the parent who is wealthier. then the other parent doesn't have to pay child support. You don't have to take those pennies from them through arguments, scandals, and court battles. I don't see the point in putting yourself through all that stress to squeeze out those pennies for the kids. There's another option. Whoever the children stay with, that's who receives the child support. Did the children stay with the father? Then the woman pays child support, if the father needs it. If the children stay with the woman, then the man pays her child support, if she needs that support. Because I think it's unfair when a man leaves children with a woman struggling financially and doesn't pay child support. To make it clearer for men, imagine she left you, left kids with you, and doesn't pay child support. You're in a bad spot financially. Now you have to earn money for yourself, for the kids, for housing, for education, for everything. Would that be great for you? Would it be easy and comfortable to live like that? I don't think so. That's exactly what happens to women who are struggling financially. If you don't want to pay them child support. Okay, so we've sorted out the issue with materialistic women and child support. Now let's talk about you men. Because in a breakup, both parties are always to blame. It's 50-50. If we look at the whole world, about 50% are middle class, wealthy, and ultra wealthy. We've established that one of the reasons women divorce these men is because of their resources, their money. It's beneficial for them to marry these men quickly and then get divorced. But there are 50% of men who are poor, destitute, who have absolutely nothing. Conclusion: women don't get divorced just because they want to take something from a man. Poor men have absolutely nothing. They live in rented apartments, paycheck to paycheck. At best, they have just enough money for food. From this comes another conclusion. A woman in marriage wants not only to be wealthy, but also to be happy. If you can't become rich, she at least wants to be happy in the relationship. But men can't even give her that. She realizes, we didn't become rich, he didn't make me happy. Why do I need a relationship like this? It would be the same for men. She doesn't inspire, motivate, or admire. You don't grow with her. And on top of that, she doesn't make you happy. How long would you last in such a marriage? Obviously not long. It's the same for women. That's why it's important not only to earn a lot of money, but also to learn how to build a happy relationship and make your woman happy. Not to make mistakes in relationships. To know how to keep making a woman fall in love with you in a relationship. To know what needs to be done in a relationship, what rules and responsibilities these relationships are built on. I've already figured out the formula for how even a poor man can make his woman happy. And if you're also wealthy, she'll be the happiest woman on the planet with you. That's why you absolutely need to watch my 3 video lessons. The first is mistakes in relationships, which is 8.5 hours long. The second is how to make a woman fall in love in a relationship. Don't think that she falls in love once and that's it. That lesson is also 2.5 hours long. And the third is what rules and responsibilities relationships are built on. That one is also 2.5 hours long. These video lessons should be watched by both the rich and the poor. I'll leave the link to the video lessons in the description below the video. After you watch these video lessons and do everything that's said there with your woman, there's a 90% chance that you'll finally become happy and wealthy, or even wealthier than you were before. Why is the success rate so high? Because when your woman is happy, she motivates and inspires you in the right way. You end up walking around happy too. Naturally, with that kind of enthusiasm, you start earning more. But if your woman is angry, unhappy, dissatisfied, or unfulfilled, there's a 90% chance you'll end up financially bankrupt. That's how much a man's success truly depends on a woman's mood and emotional well-being. That's why poor men will have a chance to make their wives happy and become rich. And rich men will have the opportunity to make a woman fall in love with them for who they are, not for their money, and also make her happy. Because even the richest man in the world right now, Elon Musk, couldn't make the woman he dreamed of fall in love with him just because of his status. It clearly means that money alone doesn't make a woman happy.
Despite the fact that Elon Musk has $310 billion, he couldn't win over this woman and even did 3 foolish things for her. First of all, when Amber Heard divorced Johnny Depp, she started dating Elon Musk. However, Musk said that Amber argued with him almost every day. Nevertheless, Musk fell into depression after their breakup. Later, Amber stated that she never liked Musk. Secondly, during the divorce proceedings, Amber promised to donate $3.5 million to charity, but the actual donation amounted to only $350,000. Musk, not wanting her to be criticized, continued to make donations on Amber's behalf. Thirdly, Amber was almost removed from the cast of Aquaman due to the damage to her reputation. After their breakup, Musk continued to write to Warner Brothers, threatening them to bring Amber back for the sequel. However, this did not change Amber's decision. Musk later acquired Twitter for $44 billion and banned Amber's account.
Unfortunately, Elon Musk figured out to make money. But when it comes to making the woman of his dreams happy in a relationship, as his results show, he missed that lesson and now he's paying a heavy price for it. That's why making a woman happy and building a happy relationship is a mix of wealth and understanding what needs to be done in a relationship to make it long-lasting and joyful. In coming years, we'll reach a point where men with some sense of reasoning and logic won't want to marry under oppressive conditions. Women will try to force them into marriage. But the men won't want to, because they understand it's not in their best interest. Everyone benefits from this except him. Naturally, she'll be offended by a man, argue and break up. As a result, women will be left with two options for marriage, either to a pushover or to a poor man. Pushovers won't carry as long as there's a woman with boobs, and the poor man, what about him? There's nothing to take from him anyway. Will a woman be happy in such a marriage, in such a union? Of course not. She wanted a real, cool, successful, wealthy man. But in the end, it's either a pushover or a poor guy. Naturally, she'll end up divorcing him. And here it is, the apotheosis of family life. A divorced woman with children in her arms. Do you think children will be shocked by such family relationships? As a result, strong men will remain single and pushovers will end up divorced. And we have women divorced, with children in their arms. What kind of children she'll raise with this philosophy? Write in the comments what you think about this.